We're here today in the Nen Valley, Northamptonshire, a water I've recently just got a ticket for. I'm not too clued up on the stock so far. You hear little bits and bobs off certain people. It's half the fun for me, learning what's on the complex. I'm fishing the smallest lake out of the three on my current ticket. It's safe to say there's a decent head of 20s with probably a handful of 30s to go at, so them fish are plenty big enough for me. Sort of approach-wise, it's currently early August, so the water temperatures are still high and an abundance of natural food about still. So really I'm looking for an approach where we're trying to nick a bite as soon as we can really. So I'm not gonna go heavy with bait. I'm looking to use a fast breakdown pellet to get a base of feed down there to attract the fish, but not to feed them up too much. And I'm feeding 12mm boilies. And I've got some 16s with me. If I feel a need to use them later on in the session, I've got 16s as backup. The lake vary in depth from 11 foot right up to sort of 2 or 3 foot up the margin shelf, but generally you've got bigger areas of 11 foot and 6 foot. So currently I'm fishing in a bay that's generally 11 foot, but I'm fishing up to an area where it rises up to 6 foot. Most of the shallower areas on the lake, 6 foot and above, are heavily weeded, so obviously presentation's an issue fishing these areas. I've opted to fish from the deeper water up to the shallower water, so to give myself a better presentation. I'm getting my lines well down, I'm fishing completely slack. I'm not even using bobbins at the minute because I just don't want the fish bumping into the lines and basically knowing I'm about. My presentation regarding end tackle, I'm using 3.5 ounce inline flat pairs, short monofilament. Well, it's chod link material, but it's very stiff, so stiff and short, coupled with a big lead, fished hard on the bottom. If they pick that up, you're not going to be worrying about twitchy bites. It's going to run. I've opted for bottom baits at the minute because the bottom is very clean where I'm fishing. It's chucking the marker rod out earlier, you'll get a bit of a thud, not a crack like you would over a gravel spot, but you'll get a dull thud. And when you're pulling the tip back with the marker rod, it's very, very smooth. So for me, that's hard clay. No issues at all with fishing a bottom bait over that. I can't really see a point in popping anything up because, as I say, the bottom is very, very clean. I'm using a 16mm hook bait on a D rig, just tied on with floss. All very, very simple approach, but I just feel that carp nowadays, they are very conditioned to dealing with rigs. And I think going back to drawing from experience from many, many years ago, that fishing, it was very, very common just to pull a bait out of the bag, what you'd be using as free offerings, and put it straight on. Obviously tied on or via a hair rig or whatever method. And I'm slowly going back to that sort of approach of angling. Out of the bag, what you're feeding, hard on the deck, if possible. I've been fishing 2 rods on the bottom and 1 on a pop-up, and it's very, very rarely when I'm fishing on the bottom that I'll get a pick-up on the pop-up rod, to be honest. Nowadays there's so many more people carp fishing, and they learn so quickly. I think we'd learn as well if we were getting caught a lot, and you'd soon figure out ways to get round getting trapped, so to speak. Yeah, that's where we're at the minute, so fingers crossed. I'm fairly confident, so we'll see what happens. A result at last. Nearly 24 hours into our trip filming, we managed to get a bite. I'm glad I stuck with the bottom bait rig. Patience is always a great tool in the armoury. Over the moon with this one. So it's not always easy performing for the cameras, but the reward's there. When it happens, it's the pressure's off, so to speak. But yeah, over the moon with this one. Cracker. I just want to run through the rig I'm using for this trip. This lake it's mainly a hard clay bottom, so I'm looking to fish a bottom bait for sort of maximum hooking potential. These fish, although they're not huge fish, they're tricky fish to catch, and they are, I'd say, majority of fish nowadays know how to deal with a pop-up rig. So more and more I'm tending to fish hard on the deck. I'll just go through some of the rig components with you. I'm using talon tip, a wide gape pattern, which is sort of a good all-round hook. You can use these for pop-ups as well. The rig material is the Gardner stiff link, £20. This is perfect for kicking away from the lead, and I prefer to use a mono-type bristle monofilament for fishing on the deck. I say it kicks away from the lead nicely, and it does everything I want it to do really. So it's very basic. It's 6 to 8 inches, tied with a simple D, a knotless knot, and then back through the eye with a rig ring and basically a bottom bait floss straight on. So this is an out the bag bottom bait. Sometimes I'll have harder hook baits for sort of longer sessions. Consequently, it was the rig I caught on this morning. Simple but very effective. Last week it was very apparent that between sort of 7 and 9 o'clock was that window of a chance of a bite, and last week, virtually to the minute, I caught a fish from the same spot at the same time. Again, leading up to that bite in particular, there was activity, there was fizzing, there was fish sticking their heads out, they were having definitely a bit of a munch up. I always find that when them windows are so obvious and apparent, that it's the rest of the session you can tell. You can just tell when something starts happening, when the water wakes up. You'll get the odd, bubbler or fish will roll in your swim, and it's more often than not, it isn't a coincidence the fact that you do get your bites in these windows. So it's all about recognising these periods and not redoing your rods or putting any more bait out, and it's basically sitting still and just sort of hoping it happens. It doesn't always happen, but 9 times out of 10, if you're fairly confident of a time, a feeding period, that they are the times to sort of reap the rewards from that. We're coming to the end of the trip now in the picturesque Nen Valley. We've been here for a few days filming. Luckily, I managed to catch one yesterday morning, a lovely mirror, just under £20. So patience is the biggest weapon when it's tricky going. So if you sit on your hands and apply some of the tactics I've showed you over the last few days, maybe you'll get lucky too.